Hey everybody, Denskill here. Hope you're having a good day. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about a topic that eluded me for years. It's something that a lot of home recording guitarists wonder about. Depending on your setup at home, you might be recording direct or with microphones. I happen to use an aux box, but I also like recording with microphones too. So to that end, I've always wondered about microphone preamps. What the hell are they? How do I get into them? How do they work? And can they make my recording sound better? If you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. So just to back things up a little bit, from my perspective, mic preamps is something that's always been more of a recording engineering type thing. I'm just a lowly guitar player. I just want to smash out some chords and rip some licks. But as I record more and more at home, I'm trying to get my recordings to sound better. And by better, I mean more professional. Thanks to my buddy Brian from BB Music Productions, who's produced a bunch of my tracks. He kind of led me on the path of using microphone preamps. Previously, when miking my guitar, I would just stick an SM57 in front of the speaker and just run that right into my analog to digital converter. In my case, I'm using an older Mo2 or Mark of the Unicorn 8 Pre. That's my digital to analog converter, and that runs through a FireWire right into my Mac laptop into Logic. So the sounds that I've been getting using various mics have been pretty good, but again, I wanted to kind of up the game and make my recording sound a little more lush and real sounding. So yeah, astute watchers of the channel will notice that there's no more orange amp behind me. That's because I got rid of it, and that's because I needed to fund some purchases for some mic preamps. So I got myself 3 of these things. This is a microphone preamp. Kind of a weird looking thing, right? It's got these knobbies on the front and these buttons and a spot where you stick your microphone in. And then these weird circuits and things on the inside like an open guitar pedal, and a slot here are a series of connectors here that you click into a powered rack unit. So before we get down the rabbit hole here, just a quick word about mic preamps. So a mic preamp takes your signal from your mic and plays with it, kind of conditions it, and gets it ready for an analog to digital conversion. Editor Densko here from the future, ripping off Paul David's trick there. Microphone preamps do a lot more than that. This is a rather simplified explanation of them. Really, they take your signal, boost it, kind of condition it a bit, make it sound lush, I guess, full and warm sounding, at least to my ears. There's really 2 main food groups of mic preamps. I'm sure some companies and professional engineers would argue that there's more than 2 food groups. At least in terms of design, and to a caveman guitar player like me, there's the API standard, which is this. And there's also Rupert Neve, whom you may or may not have heard of, but he's a famous electronics engineer and technician who's designed a lot of famous mixing boards and a lot of sound equipment for recording. So you have API, and you have Neve. For guitarists, that's kind of like Fender and Gibson, Coke and Pepsi, that kind of thing. So most recordings that we listen to today that are professionally produced are done using microphone preamps of some kind. Now, you might not need it if you're going direct into your recording console, but because I'm using microphones and I love the sound of them, I really wanted to use microphone preamps. So to save a few bucks, I went on Facebook Marketplace and looked up some used API 512Vs. I was lucky enough to find a guy that was building a studio, but the studio kind of did get off the ground. So I got 3 brand new APIs for a very good price. But Densko, what do you do with this thing? Where do you plug it in? So this is where I learned a lot about recording and preamps and all the stuff required. To use one of these things, you need a rack, specifically a powered rack. These are known as 500 series microphone preamps, API standard. I went with 3 preamps because I like to record wet, dry, wet. So I didn't need a big powered rack system. So I went on Reverb and found a deal on one of these guys. This thing here is called the Radial Workhorse 500 series desktop power rack. It's called the Cube as well. Basically, much like a computer card or a computer part, what you do is you take this thing, you see I've got that slot there. You just drop it in there and make sure that you get the connector into the slot, and then you just screw it on there. And from there, you plug your microphones into here, and on the back, there's connections to connect it to your analog to digital interface. I'm basically going to run balanced XLR cables from the workhorse into my analog digital converter. So I haven't used this yet, but I'm looking forward to using it for some upcoming recordings. Now you can go crazy and get bigger rack units. These are microphone pre's, but you can get other types of modules like compressors and EQ units and other stuff. In closing, that was just some very basic high-level information about microphone pre's. Like I said, I'm getting more and more into home recording, so I figured having some good mic pre's would help quite a bit. I hope you found this somewhat informative, and if you like content like this, please comment below. I am by no means an expert on microphone pre's, but I'm learning a lot. Mic pre's are a rabbit hole just like guitar pedals, guitars, and amps. Although you have API and Neve, there's a million other brands out there. And much like pedals and guitars and amps, it can get crazy expensive. I just bought a couple mics and they weren't cheap. I'd love to hear what you guys are using for home recording, and if anyone out there has any experience with mic pre's that they'd like to pass along, please leave a comment below. In the meantime, hope you're doing well. Have a great 2023, folks. Take care. Denskill out.